Welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, back by popular demand, I have a guest today named Javant. He has a fabulous Instagram and YouTube channel with his name, Healthy Eating with Javant. And he was so popular last time he was on you. I said, please have him come back. He's so talented. He does Nutritarian recipes, vegan, of course, a whole food plant-based, SOS free, but they're just really tasty and delicious. And he's been taking the world by storm. And he's the favorite recipe creator of my dear friend, Sharon McCrae. So she has very high standards. Please welcome him back to the show. It's so nice to see you again in your beautiful kitchen.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here making food for Chef AJ again.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at it. I mean, you seem like somebody that's been a chef for a long time.
No, quite the contrary. I'm not a chef, first of all, and I do this out of passion. It's passion driven. I wanted to eat healthier. No one was around to show me, so I kind of had to figure it out. Then I wanted to share it with people, and that's what I'm doing. But no formal training, just driven by passion.
But your recipes are good. They're not too difficult, most of them, and they taste good.
And that's the key. I mean, I try to show people simplicity can still taste good. And I do have some recipes that, all honesty, that are a little more involved. There are some that are more involved, but the majority of them are pretty simple, straightforward, very healthy, as you'll see. And they taste great. They really do.
Absolutely. How much time do you spend creating recipes? And do you just create them from the heart, or do people send you requests for what they want?
All of that. So sometimes, I'll think of what I liked as a kid growing up and see if I can make a healthier version of it. Or I'll see another creator make something and go, but they use wheat or oil, and I'll try to tweak it so it fits my standards. And then other times people will write and say, hey, can you make a rum cake? Can you make this, that? And I like that. Sometimes it's challenging, but I try to figure it out when I can. So it's a combination of all those things, that goes into me creating different recipes.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is fun. I love it, and that's what I tell people. It's passion driven. I love everything about food. I used to have a garden. I love that. I love planting it, tilling it, picking it. I like grocery shopping. A lot of people don't like to go get groceries. I like to go and buy groceries and look through the produce and look through, so every end of it, I like the whole deal. It's just healthy food is my passion.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you're going to be making something that sounds absolutely delicious today. Well, first of all, cookies are great, oatmeal raisin cookies, but a Jamaican curry, that sounds really good.
It is good. Now, I want to emphasize something, Jamaican style curry. Now, Chef
Okay.
AJ, I've learned quickly that anytime I'm making a dish that is representing a certain culture or is associated with a certain culture, say style, because someone's going to be watching to say that ain't Jamaican curry. You didn't add this. You put too much that, too little that. So I'm not saying it's authentic, 100% Jamaican. For those who are watching that knows what that looks like, this may not be exactly the same, but man, it tastes good. It's really, really good, and has some Jamaican style seasonings. It's gonna be delicious.
Nice. Well, would you like to get started?
Yes, I will. Now I want to talk about what I'm going to use first. Excuse me. I'm going to use a whole bunch of sweet potatoes. And people who know me know that I love sweet potatoes, so healthy. That's 6 whole sweet potatoes. Now, I do want to say this recipe makes a lot of curry. It's perfect for a family. But if you're one person, 2 people, this would work. One person, you could easily half this recipe and still have plenty. So you don't have to make the amount that you see me making here. But this is how I make it, and I eat it over the course of 2 or 3 days. And I love it. So sweet potatoes. I'm going to use some chickpeas, another one of my favorite foods. I'm going to use some onions that I've chopped up here. I have some garlic, some turmeric, excuse me, some curry powder, some turmeric, some thyme, some allspice, and then a jalapeno. I'm not going to use the jalapeno, even though it's in the recipe that I gave you, Chef AJ, because sometimes when I cut these, just full disclosure, just being totally transparent, they make me cough. I don't want to have a coughing attack on the Chef AJ show, so
That
I'm
happens
not
to me
gonna
too.
put.
There's something about it that they do. That I wonder what that is. There must be something in them.
Yeah, when you start to cook it, the aroma. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave this out, but this is part of the recipe normally. Okay, so as you can see, these are very simple ingredients, but the thing that I tell people is don't let the ingredients fool you. This is full of flavor. I mean, it's so flavorful. You wouldn't believe that so few ingredients could create such a great dish. but it does because it's tried and true. I've had it many times. Okay, so I'm going to get my pan on here. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some broth to the pan. Now, this is vegetable broth. You could use water. I've done this exact same dish using water, but today I'm going to use broth. So I'm getting my broth in my pan, and I just want to bring that to a simmer.
Javant, do you make your own broth or is there a preferred brand you like?
No, I typically make my own, but when I buy it, it's the same criteria as usually. It has to be organic and salt-free and oil-free and all those things. Just broth, just vegetable broth. But typically, I make my own.
Nice. Where you live, do you get the sweet potatoes in other colors other than orange?
Yes, and I've done some videos of that. I made a purple sweet potato pie. It was more like a tart with a crumb crust, and that was very good. I like to use the purple, and I've used the sweet because Sharon kind of told me, hey, you should make some sauces that don't involve nuts, that are nut free. And so white sweet potatoes are a great way to do that. So I made a cheese sauce using white sweet potatoes. So I even incorporate those into my dishes sometimes too. So
That's
my water has started to simmer here. As soon as it does, I want to add my onions. So I'm going to put my onions in. And I'm going to cook these for maybe a couple of minutes on their own. And all I'm trying to do right now is just soften these onions up a bit and let them start releasing some flavor into the broth, which won't take long.
That sweet
I'm just
potato
kind of,
cheese sauce. That sweet potato cheese sauce sounds fabulous. I'm going to look it up right now.
yes, it is good. It is good. I used it, what did I use that for? I think I used it for a Thanksgiving dish that I did. I can't recall what it was at the moment, or maybe not. But yeah, white sweet potatoes. And a lot of people say they can't find them. They're like, I don't see the purple sweet potatoes in my area. But if you're fortunate enough to get the purple or the white, they're delicious. The white is probably my favorite. It's a little starchier, a little creamier. So I really like it. Okay, so those are starting to boil. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is add my garlic. And if I had used the jalapeno and cut it up, I would be adding the jalapeno right now also. But I did not, so I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic. Same idea as the onion. I'm just going to let it cook, start releasing some flavor, and give it a mix.
Everyone wants to know if you got a book coming out.
Well, yes and no. Yes, in that I'm in the beginning stages of writing a book, but it's going to be a long time before it's released. So I'm working on it, but man, is it a long process
Yep.
from start to finish. Yeah, and I could have did one of those books that there's some publishers that'll put them out in like 2 months. But I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to do something on a larger scale so I could reach as many people as I can with the healthy vegan message. So it's going to be a while, but I do have my app coming out probably the first or second week in January. It'll have 300 recipes on it and all kind of features where you can, do all kinds of things. So the app will be a good thing to have until the cookbook comes out. And even when the cookbook comes out, apps are great.
Wow, that sounds great.
Well, yeah, very, very excited about that. Very excited about that.
What's it going to be?
Okay, so
What is the name of your app? What is it going to be called?
you know what? I'm not sure yet. I think it's going to be the HV Meal Plan and Lifestyle app, but I'm not positive yet. Not positive. That's where I am right now.
Okay, let us know when you know.
Okay, so absolutely. So the onions and the garlic, I think, have cooked long enough. And again, there's no specific time I want to cook them. Just want to soften them up a bit and loosen a little bit of those flavors into the sauce. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is important. It's all important, but I'm going to add the spices. And the thing that I want to make sure that people know is that when you add the spices to this pan, you want to make sure there's still some broth, or if you're using water, some water covering the pan. Because if not, the spices are going to go directly in the pan and they can burn really easily. and you don't want that. Also, you want to be able to coat the onions and the garlic with the spices really well, so the liquid helps. And right now, I'm going to add just a little more broth. I'm close to where I want to be, but just a touch more. Okay, and now this is the secret. This is the secret. The spices. The spices are where the flavors are. Regardless of the dish, the spices are what makes the flavor. So I'm adding all my spices now. And again, I was careful to make sure that I have enough liquid to cover the bottom of the pan so they won't stick. And now I want to really mix these well. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get all the onions, all the garlic mixed into these spices really well.
Was it difficult for you to figure out spicing when you went from a diet with salt to a diet without salt?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't know if it was hard to figure out spices so much as it was just hard to figure out the crisis because I'm telling you, you know, until your palate adjusts to no salt, or at least for me, it is difficult. But eventually they do, and then it's easy. Oh, and you know, I'm glad you said that, Chef AJ, because in the recipe that I submitted to you, there was salt included, but there's no salt here because I'm salt free. And I always try to be mindful that the vast majority of people that I cater to with my recipes and my pages are not salt free. And so I want to
Right.
help them transition. So I always put salt on the recipe and then I add the little note, salt to your own taste, in hopes that
Yeah.
eventually they'll calibrate it down until, yeah. So no salt represented here today because I don't need it, but there is salt included in the recipe that I gave you.
I find that's the hardest
Okay,
thing
so
for people. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. Well, look, let me tell you something. I mean, for me, there were other hard things. I mean, cheese was no picnic, and you know, bread was not easy, and
Yeah.
sugar until I discovered the dates. You know, it was all difficult, and that's exactly why I'm doing my page because I want to help chauffeur people from eating all those things and show them, hey, you can have good food without those ingredients. All right, I'm going to add my sweet potatoes before this starts to dry up too much.
But you make
And
great
again,
bread.
that's a lot of,
Your bread recipe, well, I mean, your millet buns are like to die for. That's like bread.
oh, I'm telling you, they're great. No, you know, my only issue was with bread was the refined wheat and the other junk that was added into it when I bought them out of the store. You know, I like, honestly, I don't eat bread, but I like bread. But yeah, my bread recipes are great. And again, all of my recipes are free of oil, wheat, refined sugar. And also, I don't eat rice. I know you do, but I don't eat rice either. I eat quinoa and millet instead. Um, but yeah, my bread recipes are great. In fact, I'm going to be, if Sharon is watching or listening or will be, I'm going to be doing a rosemary sun-dried tomato bread loaf on my YouTube tomorrow. And Sharon's seen it because I made it when I was on her show, but I haven't posted it yet. But I am going to be posting that tomorrow, and that bread is delicious.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I'm curious, what did you make for Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's all on YouTube. I made it for everybody. I made turkey out of oyster mushrooms. I
Wow.
made a gravy. Oh, that's what it was. I made the gravy with the white sweet. Thank you. I made the gravy with the white sweet potato. That's what I used it for, to make the gravy. And it was great. It was delicious. And then I made a green bean casserole. And I made, what else did I make as a side dish? I made some cauliflower mashed potatoes. And then I made pumpkin pie and blueberry pie for dessert. And I posted them over 3 days, 3 recipes each day or 2 recipes each day. So yeah, it was great. Got a lot of good feedback.
Wow. Sounds
So
delicious.
I do want to mention, Chef, I do want to mention that what I'm doing right now is okay. So I added my onions and I added my garlic and a jalapeno. If you're going to add it, got it all saturated and mixed really well. Now I'm adding my sweet potatoes, which I've done. And now I'm just taking time to make sure that I get this mixed really, really well. And that's what I'm doing. And so, and it's just about there. And you guys are going to see just how easy this is. It can be easy to make delicious food that is also healthy. Win, win, win. Delicious, easy, healthy. And you can't beat it. Okay, so
Sharon,
this
Sharon
is
just, Javant, Sharon just texted me and said, tell him hello, and I want some of that dish.
but you tell her that that rosemary bread that she saw on her show is coming tomorrow, Thursday, tomorrow, yes,
Oh my
on
God.
YouTube, because she really wanted that recipe.
That
Okay.
sounds
All right,
amazing. I
so I've
even,
got that mixed well. I'm going to put my chickpeas in, and I love some chickpeas too. Love chickpeas. Um, okay, so I got my chickpeas in here. I got my potatoes. So this is all the ingredients. They're all in. I'm going to give a little bit of mix. I don't want to, you know, you know, break up my chickpeas too much. So I'm going to give it a light mix now. And by the way, as I said, this is a lot. This is a 3-quart pan. Some people may not have a pan this big. Again, you can half the recipe or 3-quarter it if your math is good enough, 2/3 it, whatever you want to do. But this is what I'm left with. Now it's time to add some broth. And the key here is when I'm done adding this broth, I want my vegetables to be sitting in, but not under the broth. In, but not under. So I'm going to fill that. I'm going to put broth in there until it's about, oh, I would say about a half an inch, maybe a little more away from covering the veggies. I don't, you guys probably can't see it, but the broth is almost at the top, but not quite. I want them sitting in, but not on, or on, but not in the broth. Okay. All right. And so as simple as that. Now I'm going to turn the pan up a bit because now what I want to do is I want to get this, the mixture boiling. And once it starts to boil, once I bring it to a boil, I'll cover it, turn it down a bit and let it simmer and let it simmer. But right now, I'm just going to wait until it starts to boil. So, Chef AJ, I also wanted to mention because people who are new to my page or who are trying to transition to healthier eating often ask me, how in the world can you make things without oil? And this is a great example because typically when you make a dish like this, where I use broth to kind of water saute my onions and my garlic and the jalapeno, if you use it, most people would put oil in the pan. I mean, and they think, well, you got to put oil if you're going to saute your veggies. But I do it in broth. And again, I did broth today, but you can also use water. It won't compromise flavor as long as you mix things around really well and you get everything covered and saturated nicely. You won't miss the oil. But what will miss the oil is your body because there's no quicker way to add calories to your diet than by eating oil. Oil is the highest calorie food that you could possibly consume. But it's easy to cook without it is the main point that I'm trying to make.
absolutely. And I don't find the food tastes any better with oil. If anything, I think it coats your tongue so that you really can't taste it. It's not like salt where you do notice a difference, you know?
I agree 100%, but there's a big psychological part to it. If you're used to putting oil on your this or your that, it's hard to kind of transition out of it, but it's not impossible. And, it's like a lot of things. At first it's difficult, but once you adjust, you wonder why it was ever so hard. Why would I ever eat the other way? So again, that's what my page is all about, is just showing people that, hey, you can make delicious food with lots of flavor that's healthy without the detrimental ingredients, the oil, the refined wheat, the refined sugar, and so on.
You actually save money and cleanup is easier when you stop using oil.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
I wonder where it even
Okay, so
started.
this.
Yeah. Do you know how it even started? Like this idea of adding oils to our food and sauteing it. I mean, I'm trying to think back to when I was little. I'm a lot older than you. I don't remember like this whole oil thing. I mean, it was used for salad dressing, but yeah. Oh,
Well,
Javant, here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was go ahead. You answer the oil question, and there's a question from Tracy, a live viewer, when you have a chance.
Okay, no, I mean, I was going to say I'm not sure when the oil started, but like you, I can remember it being around. Only in my household, it wasn't really oil. It was like the animal fat that you used, and the lard kind of thing and that kind of thing. So it was just kind of a tradition thing where I was. But thank goodness I know now how to cook without it. Yeah.
Right. Diana says she loves your cooking style. And there's a nice comment from Todd that you are this current go-to low-fat, whole food, plant-based recipe content creator. And there's a question from Tracy about the bread. How do I prevent the water and psyllium husk from turning into a thick clump when making the bread?
Well, I mean, anytime someone asks a specific question like that, I just say, follow my recipe. I mean, if it's my bread, follow my recipe, step for step. And
I
on my
think she
YouTube
does mean,
channel,
I think she means your recipe, right, Tracy? Please clarify in the chat. And people are saying how great your recipes are. And guys, the recipes in the show notes, you have to look under the video. If you don't see it, it's only on YouTube. You got to click the more button. And people are saying, do other people around you eat healthy like you, friends and family?
oh no, I mean, I don't know anyone who eats healthy like me in my immediate circle,
Wow.
because I'm really simple. I'm really, really simple. I mean, even something like this, I make it for myself. I would make every once in a while. I typically am eating salads, and I'm a very boring eater. So no, people around me typically don't, even know those who consider themselves to eat healthy, and by all means they can. Who am I to say what's healthy or what's not? But they don't eat like I do. And that's okay. I mean, people eat how they eat. This is starting to boil a bit. So at this point, I'm going to cover it. And now that I have it covered, I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit, because now I don't want it to boil. I just want it to simmer. Okay. And I'm going to keep an eye on this. And the idea is that I let this cook and I let it simmer until the sweet potatoes start to get soft and break up a bit. When they get soft, let's not say break up. When they get soft, and I know that when I mix it, they'll start to break, because that's what makes it nice and saucy, is that when the sweet potato starts to release that starch and you mix it around, it breaks up, it gives you that nice, really thick, saucy kind of flavor and feel that you want. And that'll be created once the sweet potatoes are soft and I mix it around. All right, so I'm going to keep an eye on this, but I'm going to move that aside right now. Listen, I wish, I could make this look more complicated. You guys are probably realizing that it's not that I'm a great cook. These are easy recipes. I mean, I
Yeah,
literally
well,
just put some stuff in a pan and put it aside, and it's doing the, it's just simmering. It's nothing difficult about it.
yeah. Well, people are saying that you are a great chef, Peggy says, and that Jill says, love watching your videos. Your food looks amazing. It's interesting how you say you eat simply, and so do I. And I interview lots of chefs and doctors, and who are the people that are eating complicated recipes? Who are they? Because I haven't met them yet.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. I hear that it's a lot of work. When I say it, I mean transition into a healthy plant-based diet, whether it be a vegan or what have you. That is complicated, it's difficult, and that it's expensive. I haven't found any of those things to be true personally. I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I mean, the ingredients here are definitely not expensive. You're talking about sweet potatoes and chickpeas and onions and I mean, and this makes enough for, if it's one person, this can make 5 meals, 4 meals, 5 meals easily. So I don't get the expensive part. And then things are as complicated as you make them. I mean, it depends on what you want to make. I have recipes that, you can make in no time. Again, I have some that are a little more involved. It's all about, what you choose. But it certainly can be easy and can be cost effective to eat a healthy plant-based diet.
Yeah, I know you were inspired by the work of Dr. Joel Furman. Does he know that?
He doesn't yet.
Well, we should tell him,
He doesn't yet.
we should tell him his 70th birthday is Saturday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
didn't
he
know
would be
that.
pleased to know. Yeah,
Um,
I actually got him a present because it's his 70th. Yeah.
yeah, well, if I knew him, I'd get him a present too. He and Dr. Greger have been the most influential people in my life as far as my health journey. Without the two of them, I think I would have gotten here, but I'd probably be halfway, if that, because I've learned so much. And I had the pleasure for the first time ever yesterday. I talked to Dr. Greger for 30 minutes. I interviewed him, and the interview was fabulous. I mean, and he said it was one of his best interview today. He loved it. I loved it. And so he and Dr. Furman are my health heroes. And be face to face with Dr. Greger and get to have an exchange with him after watching him for a decade and watching hundreds of videos was surreal, and I loved it. And Dr. Furman is on the bucket list at some point. Hopefully, our paths across, and I'll get to tell him how amazing he is, which I'm sure he knows. But I'll reiterate that fact because I just
Well,
love him. Just
I'm
love him.
happy to introduce you, and I'm sure he'd be pleased to know what he inspired. Is Dr. Greger's interview going to be on your channel?
It is. I don't know when I'm going to post it yet. Right now, I'm just watching it every day, a couple of times a day. But eventually, yes, it will definitely be on. I am definitely looking forward to posting that on my YouTube channel. He's great. I love him. I
Yeah,
think I got
yeah,
his book behind me, don't I? Yeah,
yep.
I got one of his books up there.
I have his new book. It's in the other room. I actually have like what's called an advanced
Yeah,
reading copy. It's fabulous.
yeah, me too. Yeah, he sent me one. How not to age me?
Yeah, How Not to Age.
Yeah.
Very
Hmm. Okay,
nice.
so look, while I'm waiting for the curry to get to the point where I can start mixing it, I'm going to go ahead and start on these cookies. And they're really simple too. Really simple to make, just a few ingredients. Now, these are oatmeal raisin cookies, which is probably my personal favorite. I love chocolate chip. I love oatmeal raisin. The two of those kind of, whichever one's in front of me is my favorite. I love them both.
Hmm.
But I'm going to make these, and the ingredients I'm going to be using, I always like to say the ingredients before I make things. I'm going to be using some oats, some organic, glyphosate certified oats. I'm going to be using some chickpeas. Now, that's interesting because typically you think of making cookies, you got to have some kind of flour. Well, I don't eat refined wheat, but in this case, I'm not even going to use almond flour or tiger nut or any of the flours that I typically use. I'm going to use chickpeas, and you would never know it. These cookies are going to turn out great. I've done some of these recipes on my page, and people love them. So oats, chickpeas. I'm going to use some almond butter. Now, typically I use tahini, but I'm out of tahini right now. And so I'm going to use almond butter. Obviously, if you have a nut allergy, you want to go with tahini or some other type of seed butter. I'm going to use some dates here, some medjool dates. I'm going to use some raisins, of course. I got some cinnamon here, and then I've got some vanilla. And that's it. Really simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my chickpeas and my dates into my processor. Now, I use 10 dates in this recipe, and it usually makes 10 cookies, 10 big cookies, you'll see, 10 big cookies. So if you have a couple of cookies that are sitting, you're getting 2 dates, very reasonable, very reasonable for most people. So chickpeas and dates. Now, before I add any other ingredients, I'm going to actually process these two ingredients alone. And the reason that I do that is because I want to get them broken up somewhat. Because if they're nice and smooth when I add the other ingredients, I find that it makes it a lot easier to get the rest of the batter smooth when I add the other ingredients. So I'm just going to start with the dates and the chickpeas. Okay, I'm gonna do it a little bit more. All right, didn't take long.
What
And
food
once I get to
processor?
that point,
What food
I'm sorry.
processor? Yeah, what food processor are you using?
Um, I really don't promote brands. So I just, I'll have that kind of information on my app, but I really don't mention brands on my page, except, a couple. But, it's just a regular old processor, nothing fancy. But at this point, I'm going to add my water. Okay, so I've got that blended up. I'm going to add my water here. And I'm going to give it a blend again. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's what I want. Okay, so now once I get those ingredients mixed together, now I'm going to add, now I'm going to add my almond butter. Now, I also want to mention, Chef AJ, that when I make these cookies for myself, this may sound crazy to people, but when I make these cookies for myself, I don't use any nut butter or seed butter. I don't. And instead of using 10 dates, I literally use 5 dates. Um, and I just do that because, I just want to lower the amount of calories and the amount of fat that's there. Now, since I'm making these for you guys, I got to eat them, and I'm going to eat them without hesitation. But if I were making them for myself, I would lessen the dates. And the lesson there is that anyone watching that goes, oh, that doesn't look like enough this, or that looks like too much that. Feel free. You can adjust the recipe to your liking, without having any trouble whatsoever. So if you want a little more nut or seed butter, a little less dates, a little more dates, feel free to tweak the recipe. But today I am making it as I typically do when I post it. Okay, so now I've got my nut butter added. Now I want to also add my cinnamon and my vanilla. Now my raisins and my oats, I'm not going to add. I'm not going to blend those at all. This is it. And now I want to blend it up again. And this time I want to get it nice and smooth.
Are Majula your favorite type of dates? Oh, maybe he can't hear me. He's blending. Isn't he great, you guys? I'll read some of these comments. Hamilton Beach is what you think it is? I was curious more like not the brand, but the size. What's so funny?
You guys play some bets on the
Oh,
processor
no.
here? Okay, so that is all done. It is now blended. I'm gonna put this aside. Okay, and listen, I'm gonna make this recipe a little more cleanup friendly by mixing the rest right here in the processor. Now, you could by all means transfer the mixture at this point to a bowl to finish this recipe if you want it. But I'm gonna do myself a favor and not create more dishes to clean up at the end. I'm just gonna mix it right here in the food processor.
Good idea.
Absolutely.
Are Majula your favorite dates?
Uh, yes, but I do like the others. I mean, the Gillette are fine with me. They're all sweet, they're all chewy. I mean, you can't go wrong with a date, right?
Nope.
But if I had to choose a favorite, yes, I would say that the Majules are my favorite. Okay, so now I didn't add the raisins when I was doing the mixing just then because I don't want to break them up. I don't want them to have that texture. I want to have them plump. I love raisins, by the way. And so I'm going to add them now. And the same thing with the oats. I wanted to feel the texture of the oats and the cookies. So I didn't add them when I was doing all that blending, but I am going to add them now. Okay. And now I'm just going to mix it by hand, the old-fashioned way.
So Sharon just sent me a text, Javant, and she said for the person that was saying that the water and the psyllium clumped, she was wondering if they maybe were using psyllium powder instead of the whole husk or flake. Because
you know what, that happens so often. And if you use the powder and not the husk, a lot of times the bread will have a purplish tone to it also, and the consistency will be way off. I just hate to guess, but when someone asks me online, Hey, what happened? I have this problem. If the recipe has psyllium husk, that's the first thing I ask. Did you make sure to use psyllium husk and not powder? And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, I did use the powder. That's your problem. It'll really mess up the consistency and give your bread typically a little purplish tone to it.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank you,
Sharon.
Sharon.
And we have a live viewer named Lindsay saying, I'm so happy to catch Javant live. I just joined his YouTube channel a few weeks ago, made his pumpkin cake on Thanksgiving, and it was so moist and delicious. Yum. That's
Oh, I love it. I love it.
a great
I love
recipe.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Pamela, oh, sorry, I got to wear glasses. I can't read this, but this guy is truly amazing. I'm going to have to rewatch this video. And what a
Well, I mean,
And yes, they're saying, what a really kind and inspirational man, loving the recipes and watching him. Going to start following you now and get the app.
oh, I love
Nice.
that. I love it all. I do want to say though, don't be too impressed by me because I just don't, and I mean that in this sense. I don't want you to feel like I'm doing something magical or difficult here. It really is easy, And before I started cooking this way, I was a little intimidated by it, but it was kind of fight or flight. I mean, if I didn't make this healthy food for me, how was I going to eat healthy? And so I just went in and figured it out. But the beauty is, everyone who watches me and says, "Man, you're really a wizard in the kitchen and you're really good," I'm saying to you, I've put in the time in here figuring these things out, so you don't have to. So you don't have to be a wizard to make what I'm making. Just follow my recipe. So it really isn't difficult, particularly if you follow my recipes. Okay, so now I'm going to multitask here. I'm gonna leave this for 1 second. We'll come back to it, and I want to come over to the curry here, and I'm going to mix this up and see if my potatoes are starting to break up a bit. They are, but I'm going to give it about another 4 or 5 minutes and get those sweet potatoes a little bit softer before I come back to that. So back to my cookies. This is the easy part. I'm just mixing it up, getting everything mixed here. And these are ready, just like that. Again, nothing difficult about any of this. Okay, so that's been mixed. Now, one thing that I like, just in general, is symmetry. When I'm setting up a living room or setting up anything, I like things to be even and everything's blocked off. So when I make cookies, I use a scoop. Now you don't have to use a scoop, but I use a scoop. Makes it less messy for me, but also it makes the cookies nice and even and symmetrical. And I like that. I like it to look aesthetically pleasing also. So I'm going to use a scoop. I'm just going to scoop them onto my baking sheet here. And this recipe usually makes right at 10 cookies.
And's good because then you don't have too many to tempt you.
Yeah, they tempt me, I'll tell you that.
So you like to bake on parchment paper? Have you ever used one of those silicone baking trays?
I have, Chef AJ. I'm still on the fence about silicone. It's a relatively new product,
Mhm.
and most indications right now is that it's safe, but it's one of those things where till it's been out and tested more thoroughly, I'm not sure. So I have done a few recipes, and it always had the caveat though that you could always form things and do them on parchment paper or do them on stainless steel. So I'm not a big fan of silicone. I do use it. I do have some silicone cookware, but I don't use it often. And typically when I do, it's because I'm making a recipe and I want everything to look nice and uniform. So I got 10 cookies out of there. I just kind of put them on the pan. However, I'm going to let those sit there. Or I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and put these in the oven. So I did that. Okay, now back to my curry.
Lindsay says, I love when you say on some of your videos, I ain't made at you.
Oh man, I ain't mad at you.
Oh yeah, she typed she typed mad. She
Okay.
typed MADE. Okay, that's funny. Susanna says,
Who was that?
This is
Wait, that was
Lindsay.
Lindsay, you saying?
Lindsay
Thank
living
you,
life.
Lindsay.
And Susanna
Yes.
says, does the batter stick together okay when you make it with half the dates and no nut or seed butter?
Half the dates and no nut or seed
Yeah,
butter.
you were saying that when you make it for yourself,
Yes.
you prefer it that way.
Yes. When I make it, it's just chickpeas, dates, cinnamon, and sometimes vanilla, sometimes not. And I usually honestly put blueberries in it because blueberries are a little healthy. I don't usually do raisins, I do blueberries. Now I want to say this to answer that question. Not as well as they will now, right? Because when I make them, it's going to, a lot of times I'll make this as bars, right? I won't have the oats and I'll make it as bars. It'll just be the chickpeas, it'll just be the dates, some cinnamon, and then blueberries or raisins. And I make them as bars and then cut them. And they are very moist. But if you have the oats in them like I do today, and you cut the dates back to 5, and you took out the nut butter and you cooked them, they would hold together. They would hold together. Okay, so now I'm mixing my curry, Chef AJ, and I'm not in, I wouldn't say I'm intentionally making the sweet potatoes kind of break up, but I know they're going to. But I'm not worried about being gentle here because I do want them to break up because again, it's the starches that are released from the sweet potatoes that are going to help them make this nice and saucy and make it thicker. And so I'm not being deliberate. I'm just stirring it around and and believe it or not, that's it. Now, this is very important what I want to say here, right? Okay, so I've mixed this around some, and I think it's in a good place. But I'm going to let it cook a little bit longer. And then after it cooks a little bit longer, I'm gonna turn the stove or the iron in this case completely off, right? But don't eat it yet. It's gonna be hard not to because it smells really good. But I like to wait about an hour. I like to wait about an hour because I find that the sauce really thickens when you wait, and it just becomes nice and thick and saucy. So we don't have that kind of time. So what I did is I made some, obviously, earlier, and I have it right here. Oh, and this is what it looks like. Now, I don't know how well you can see that, but this is some curry that I made earlier. Can you see that at all?
That looks beautiful. Will you serve it maybe over a grain like millet? I know you don't do rice, so.
You're exactly right. And I was going to mention that. How do you serve this now? You can eat it as is. I'm telling you, there's a lot of flavor, there's a lot of substance with the sweet potatoes. But my favorite way is, like you said, over millet or over quinoa with a salad. Oh my gosh, you kidding me? And that's how I'll be eating this later, today. But I do want, if you can see, I don't know how well you guys can see, but this got really thick because when you look in here, it still looks kind of watery and saucy. And honestly, after I finish cooking this about another 10 minutes, I would stir it up more to break those sweet potatoes more. But this is the end result. And as you can see, can you see that, Chef AJ? Can you
Yeah,
get
the
a sense
sauce,
for how
I mean,
that
the
looks?
sauce looks amazing.
Yes, it's nice and saucy and thick, and that's the way I like it, full of flavor. And again, there's no rules. You could add peas to this. You could add corn to this. If you wanted to add other things, you could. I'm a simple guy, so sweet potatoes and chickpeas, two of my favorite foods, great in combination, by the way. That's how I roll with it. And this is a delicious Jamaican style curry. If you make it, you'll love it, or at least everyone who has so far has really liked it. Now, I pretend to put my cookies in the oven. I just slid them over there, but I did make some of these earlier too, because I want people to be able to see the end result. and these are they. So these are my cookies right here. You can see that they're really nice sized cookies, right? They're pretty large and mounted up pretty big. So a couple of these cookies is a nice dessert. So these are my oatmeal raisin cookies. This is the Jamaican style curry, both delicious. I'm glad I'm on here today because I had to make this. Now I got to eat this, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Wow. I mean, it took you, I mean, you've only been on like 30, 35 minutes. That's a pretty fast meal.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like now I do want to, say now before we came on, I had the sweet potatoes peel. I had to peel the sweet potatoes. I had to cut the sweet potatoes. I had to cut my onion. I had to cut the garlic. But that's about all I did. And I had everything, right here compact and ready to go. So what I did before we started was probably truly 15 minutes worth of work. So 15 minutes worth of work plus what I did here today, and it made this. And then with the cookies, I just had everything, in the bowls, but there was no prep. And so I made both of these things in this amount of time with about, let's say 20 minutes, a generous 20 minutes of additional time before we came on. So as I always say, healthy vegan eating does not have to be difficult, complicated. It can be simple. And man, I'm telling you, all this is good. People raved about these cookies online when I posted it on my Instagram, and so do I. They're delicious, and the curry, I mean, you can't miss.
Wow, you really make it look very easy. And I know it's delicious because I've tried some of your recipes. So if it would help you to help me promote your app when it comes out, let me know. We can add it to show notes. We could do another show, whatever is best for you.
Oh, I love that. I would love to do that. The app, along with the cookbook, are like out of all the things I've done in life. I mean, they're like the most satisfying because I feel like they're both going to reach a lot of people and help a lot of people transition. And that's again, I'm just trying to fill a void for people that wasn't filled for me because when I was 90 pounds heavier and diabetic and hypertensive and had all these issues, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And there was no one holding my hand. There was no page or site that I knew of that was going to teach me how to make healthy food. And so once I learned how to do it, I was like, I got to give back, man. I'm happy. I love this. And I want to show people that you can transition. It's not difficult. And my page is there. And then my app is going to be phenomenal. So I would love to come back on and talk about it.
Was it hard making an app? Like, was it very technologically challenging?
Well, I'm not actually putting it together. I have a company that's doing all of the technical stuff. I'm just making all the videos, but man, it's a lot of videos. And I initially told people it would be ready, and they told me, they said, "Don't promise when it'll be ready." And I said, but then people would say, "Hey, when's the app coming?" I said, "Oh, November." And then November became December, and now I'm saying the first or second week in January. And I've just about finished it. I have to do more exercise videos because one of the elements of the app is I talk about sleep and I talk about positive mindset along with the 300 recipes. And I have exercise videos, different videos where people can come and train like I train. I call my approach consistency over intensity. Or consistency, I'm sorry, over intensity. And so right now, the only holdup is I've got to make more exercise videos. So when I do that, I'll submit it all, and I think by early January it'll be available.
Wow, you seem so fit. I can't imagine you as heavy as you said you were.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's amazing what healthy food can do because I definitely was. I definitely was a lot heavier.
How long did it take you to lose the weight?
I would say it was just so gradual. The change in my eating style was so gradual because, again, I was just reading and listening to lectures and then tweaking this and tweaking that. So it was very progressive over a long period of time. So I would say probably 6 or 7 years to lose it all.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I don't know. Maybe it was shorter, but the thing is health, nutrition, exercise are big subjects, and I'm very passionate about it. So I'm always studying and always listening and that kind of thing. And so I'm always tweaking something with my exercise regimen, with what I cook. So it's just my passion. Is what I do all the time. I love
So
it.
we'll be able to actually see you exercise.
Yes, yes. So I'll have some videos. I'm doing some of them on the beach. I'm doing some of them at the lake, in the woods, at the waterfall, on the mountain, in my gym upstairs. So I'm going to be all over the place trying to make it interesting. Really, really simplify the process. A lot of people that follow me, I have quite a bit of following that's over 50 and over 60,
Yeah.
and so I want to make it. I don't want to make it too complicated, and I'm not complicated anyway, and I get great results. It's about the
No.
consistency, and
Yep.
that's what I'll be reiterating and preaching. Yeah.
That sounds great. So there's a question from TS. Would it make a difference in the texture of the dish if the skins were left on the sweet potato?
I don't think so. I think some of them would come up when you start to mix it. Some of them will kind of come off. But I love sweet potato skins myself. I don't usually with a dish like this. I've never left them on when I'm doing like a stew or a curry like this. But I've certainly left them on, when I bake them or if I make some sweet potato fries or something like that. If you don't mind the texture, it'd be even better. More nutrients. I'm all for it.
Nice. And there's a question. Have you ever made Jamaican breadfruit?
I haven't. I'm not sure what that is. I haven't.
Yeah.
But if whoever that is sends me a comment or a DM and kind of explains it to me, I certainly may try. I love that too. Like I said, I've got a long list of requests, and I sincerely try to do them, but I only post so many videos, right? So it takes time to get to them. But I love being challenged with things that I'm not familiar with and trying to recreate them, and then people are really appreciative, and I feel good, and they feel good. So whoever that is, if you write me on one of my, one of my pages or my channel, I'll certainly try if it looks plausible.
Nice. And Shauna says, this is my first time seeing Javant. I'm so glad to be introduced to him. So that is fabulous. Oh my gosh. I love watching him and I love to make his recipes. So you got a lot of fans. Anyway, well, thank you so much for doing this. This was a wonderful presentation. And I'm definitely going to try the curry recipe. I don't bake too much. Because if I bake, I'll eat it, you know?
Well, I'm the same way. But I always love being here. You're thanking me, and I'm like, why are you thanking me? I should be thanking you for
Well,
having
because
me
your
on.
recipes are
I
great. They're
love.
easy. So I find I don't know if this is the same for you because I eat if people say do a what I eat in the day video, it would be the most boring video, and I've tried to do that because I find holidays I'll bake. Of course, we had people over, but I find that like if I bake stuff, then I don't like enjoy fruit as much, and I really like just to be able to enjoy just eating fruit. And then when I have all the sweet treats, then I want to eat that instead of the fruit. So I find it's better just to not have it in the house for me.
No, I mean I hear you. I just make sure when I'm making desserts, my go-to that I eat probably 4 or 5 days a week is what I told you, was just chickpeas with dates and blueberries and some vanilla. That literally is the recipe, and then I bake them. I'm totally comfortable eating chickpeas and dates and
Yeah.
blueberries and vanilla as a dessert because they're all healthy, and
Yeah.
they taste great. I love it anyway. But again, I'm a different kind of guy.
Yeah, no, it's not that I never eat it. It's just that I find the more I make, the more I eat. So it's not like I'm like this pure person, but there's been just so much around the holidays that I'm ready to just not have as much. You know what I mean?
No, and I get that because when I'm on your show or on Sharon's show and I make all this food, I got to eat all this food. Now I will definitely freeze some of this curry because I made some earlier, so I got a double batch and they're both big. And then all these cookies, I'll probably I hope to freeze some, but man, I love them. So I'm like you, if I make it, I gotta eat it because I'm not throwing it away.
Right.
But listen, I'm not gonna complain. I'm not gonna complain. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Just in case people didn't watch your video about rice, maybe you want to briefly say why you don't eat rice.
Well, yeah, it's pretty simple. White rice has the bran and the germ removed. It's just the endosperm left. There's no nutrients or very little nutrients, and it spikes your blood sugar. It's as simple as that. When it comes to brown rice, it's a matter of the arsenic levels. Now, I always concede that I know there's some California basmati rice out there, and I know there's some rice that you can source from India where the arsenic levels have been tested and they're permittable. And I have no arguments with that. But for me, I love quinoa and millet anyway, and I don't have those potential issues. I don't have to worry about the sourcing or anything like that. And on top of that, quinoa is super healthy. It's got all amino acids in good measure. So I'm not against any food because some people say, well, why don't you like oil? Or why do you think that rice is bad? I don't label any food good or bad. The food is just the food. right? So I don't think anything's good or bad, and I don't hate anything or dislike any food. I just eat the way that I eat, and those are the recipes I put out there. And I tell people all the time, if you want to add some oil, if you want to put this over rice, I'm not going to object. No problem.
Yep. Has it changed? I remember the first time you were on, your ground meat substitute was like your most popular recipe. Is that still number one, or has anyone taken its place?
No, it's still number one. I did a sausage though. I did a ground sausage and made it into patties, and I did the ground version, and that was very popular also. And it's spot on. I mean, it tastes because again, I tell people, people say, "Well, I can't give up meat." Why? Because I like it. I like how it tastes. But meat really doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's what you put on it. And so when people have my dishes made with mushrooms and they can't believe, man, this tastes just like A or B. So yeah, those type of recipes are always very, very popular, and people are very appreciative because they go, man, I thought I could never have a great taste in this or something that tastes like sausage or burgers again. So those are always very popular.
Yeah, I'm looking at the recipe, man. I mean, it's all healthy ingredients, cauliflower,
It's
mushrooms,
super
onion.
healthy.
Yeah,
It's super healthy. And I
yeah.
have a recipe, Chef AJ, for that one that is without the mushrooms, and I have one without the nuts because some people have nut allergies, and I try to be
Right.
very mindful of that. Yeah, so I have a version that I included with the recipe if you want to skip the nuts, if you want to skip the mushrooms, and then some people don't want the cauliflower, and I even tell them how to skip that. So yeah.
Wow, that's great that you customize it for people. I love that.
Hey, that's what it's all about. I'm just here to service people. So they tell me they want it. I try to make it happen.
I love that. Giving the people, Javant, giving the people what they want. That actually almost rhymes.
Yeah, a small percentage of the people what they want because most people don't want this, right? But yeah,
Right. Okay. And I'm looking at the sausage recipe, and where do you, oh yeah, for mushroom free, for nut free. Very cool. I love that. Yeah, that's nice of you. Well,
absolutely,
it's so great
absolutely.
connecting again. Let me know if you want to come on when you get the app ready, and we'll tell everybody to get it that day or whatever day you want them to get it.
That would be so cool. You will definitely be hearing from me because I would like to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks so much, Javon. It was always fun catching up with you.
Absolutely. And Sharon, thank you for dropping by, checking in. Always nice to hear from you
And thank you,
also.
Sharon, for introducing me. She found you. So thank you, Sharon. Take care, Javon. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time for Plant Fueled with Dr. Nikki Davis. She'll be making vegan butter.